The visual effects industry is protesting at the Oscars once again this year, mostly against overseas bidding wars that has driven local, I guess, Hollywood visual effects agencies under. You may remember that Rhythm and Hues, the visual effects agency behind Life of Pi, which won an Oscar, run out of business. And so, the same has gone for other similar visual effects agencies. But why is this happening?
So pretty much, Rhythm and Hues, you're right, they did go out of business 11 days before they won the Best Visual Effects Oscar. They went bankrupt, rather.
Right.
And so the reason why this is happening is because pretty much two reasons. One is that the way that visual effects studios have been working in Hollywood for the last 25, 30 years is that essentially they get a fixed bid contract to deliver a certain number of shots. So they might have $10 million to deliver 500 visual effects shots. And what that doesn't take into consideration is, okay, well, what if they push the release date back and the artists have to keep working for longer? What if the director changes his mind and decides to go in a different direction? Then they have to do that work all over again. And so instead of being paid hourly, and like most other people in the film industry, and racking up the actual cost of the work, they have just a flat rate to do as much work as the studios want them to do. So that's problem one. Problem number two is that other countries have been actually having government-funded subsidies for visual effects studios. So essentially saying, well, if you come and bring your work to Vancouver, we will actually give you back a certain percentage of your production cost because you're creating jobs in our country. And so that means that American studios are not able to compete with the low costs that are created by these other government subsidies. And as a result, a lot of effects studios have been going out of business. A lot of artists have been having to move around the country, or I'm sorry, move around the world to different countries where the work is happening.
Yes.
It would be one thing if, like, Vancouver was offering 30% back, in subsidies to the movie companies. But like maybe that lasts a year, and then Montreal offers 33%, and then all the jobs go to Montreal, and then India offers 34%, and now all the artists have to move to India. So it's not a sustainable model.
So the MPAA lobby, they're generally on the side of the motion pictures makers, obviously, and not the visual effects artists. But it seems the MPAA had created a rule to help them fight piracy, a lesser known rule, but this may actually come back and help the visual effects artists.
Basically, the MPAA, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is categorizing digital work done in the same way that we categorize material goods that come from other countries. So let's say you go to India to get all your visual effects done, and then you're basically importing digital effects from India. And they want the government to treat these digital effects made abroad the same way as if we imported material goods from other countries.
It doesn't seem like a big differentiation, but those material goods are subject to tariffs and regulations. Those digital goods are not. So when you subject them to those rules, that makes them far less desirable in the eyes to budget-conscious motion picture makers.
So basically, you've undermined all the beneficial subsidies that you would get by going abroad, and now it becomes more more financially viable to keep your work in the country.
Yep.
Right. Now, it was not the MPAA's intention to have this apply to VFX. This was something that they were trying to do for anti-piracy type stuff. But the VFX artists who have been doing a constant struggle, there's this guy Daniel Lay who's kind of heading up this, essentially had some lawyers look into this, and they discovered, well, they were trying to make this case for piracy. This is something that we can actually use in court to work in our favor, and if their opinion is that digital works should be subject to all these same laws as material goods, we can apply that to visual effects, and we can kind of cancel out the effects of these subsidies.
So maybe the American VFX industry isn't so dead after all. So you may have seen this in the 30-minute documentary on YouTube called Life After Pi, which kind of shows the Rhythm and Hues how they could win an Oscar right after going bankrupt, how this all happened. And it also reminds me a little bit of Nightmare Factory, which is a documentary available right now on Netflix. It's not exactly the same thing. It's actually like practical effects versus digital effects, but it's showing trends in the industry going toward things that tend to be more budget friendly.
I think the problem with this, that I'm sure time will reveal, is that the MPAA and the big studios are on the same side. So if the MPAA has done something to inadvertently hurt those studios, lawyers will spring into action and correct course.
Right, and you have the entire legal departments of 6 major studios plus the MPAA who are going to fight this. However,
that's their rule.
You know, this may be a good step, though, for the visual effects industry. The only problem, though, is that the industry is very fragmented. There's no union for visual effects artists, and they have a very hard time organizing. So if they are able to organize, they are able to actually make a pretty good case in court, though.
Yeah. So this is their best shot, I guess, at toppling this massive lobby effort opposing them. And that has been driving them down steadily over years.
Until then, they'll probably just try to raise awareness with stuff like these documentaries and their picketing of the Oscars, which is projected to happen this Sunday.
Yeah, so look for that this Sunday and let us know what you think about the VFX struggle against the MPAA, what you think their plight will be, if they can survive still, even with this help. Let us know what you think below in the comments, and please be sure to subscribe.